Next, we have Joseph Rogers. Joseph Rogers, come to the stage. Joseph is a longtime mental health consumer leader. He has been widely acknowledged as one of the national leaders in the movement led by people diagnosed with psychiatric disorders to change and the mental health care system. Joseph is an executive director of the National Mental Health Consumers Self-Help Clearinghouse, a peer-run national technical assistance center funded in part by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and chief advocacy officer of the Mental Health Association of Southeastern Pennsylvania. Welcome. Thank you.
Well, it's an honor to be here to welcome you, really, to Philadelphia and to Pennsylvania, those of you who are coming from other areas. This meeting house, actually, my family goes back to involvement with this meeting back into the the meeting house started about 1800s, but going back previous to this meeting, 1600s. So that it's nice to welcome you to the sort of my family's home here at the Central Philadelphia meeting. It's I've actually sat here on the facing bench as an elder of this meeting, and you know, it's kind of historic that we're here. It's not the first time we've been outside the American Psychiatric Association, but I think we're, growing as a movement. The things you've heard today, the idea that what we're approaching is a broader approach than the medical model approach, the idea that there's a holistic health approach, are things that actually are getting currency like it's never happened before. As you hear people talk about healthcare reform, they're talking about one reason for healthcare reform is you can't just sort of treat a person as a diseased brain. It doesn't work. You end up just drugging and using force and coercion because people don't want to be treated as a diseased brain. People want to be treated as human beings. And what we're seeing is an acceptance of the fact across the whole medical spectrum that human beings are not just diseased organisms. Human beings need to be treated holistically in a full health model. And so we're talking about and seeing the need that not only when you have a diagnosis of psychiatric diagnosis that you need to more than the psychiatrist and drugs. You need to see you need play therapy, you need jobs, you need employment, you need work. I was diagnosed when I was 18 with schizophrenia, and when I went to the place that you went to get work if you had a disability, the vocational rehab people, they looked at my diagnosis and they said, "Oh, well, this diagnosis, the indication of this diagnosis is that you'll never work, so we can't take you under vocational rehab." So when people talk about the diagnosis of somehow being benign or useful, I can tell you from personal experience, it's not very useful at the age of 18 to be told you're never going to have hope, you're never going to have work because of a label that somebody's given you with some 15, 20-minute interview. So we're here to put an end to that, to start demanding that we be treated as full human beings, that we're not going to take it anymore, that we're rising up, as David talked about. We need a revolution. We've had reforms. We continue to have reforms. Everybody talks about mental health reform, but I agree with David that the reform has to be moved to a revolutionary approach. And the only people that really care enough to create a revolutionary approach, at least start the revolutionary approach, is those of us who've been impacted by these labels. It's those of us who have had the impact of being labeled that are really going to have the passion to start the revolution and to keep the revolution and create the revolution. If you haven't been labeled, you probably don't even know about it. For the most part, I'm on Facebook, and I have a lot of friends that aren't involved in the mental health system. And when I post things from David and I post things from Jim about the abuses that are happening in psychiatry, I get lots and lots of people that aren't familiar with this issue responding that it's like unbelievable. They say, well, this is amazing, this is unbelievable, this is still going on. They're force drugging people, they're force shocking people. So it's great that we're here, it's great that we're speaking out, and it's a movement that needs to be, expanded. And thank you for coming. Susan Rogers has done a huge amount of work, and if you didn't show up, she would have had a heart attack, and that would have been very bad. So we here from the Mental Health Association of Southeastern Pennsylvania really thank you for being here.
Joseph, thank you so much.